All right. Hello and welcome back. So, once again, I am coming on with a live Q&A without any telling anybody. It's a surprise. Always keeps you on your toes, wondering when I'm going to come online with these Q&As. This tonight we're going to be talking about the nature of the matrix. What is the matrix? And of course, by now, if you've watched the intro, you already know that I'm going to say that the idea of the matrix as it's being popularized now is at the very best an incomplete understanding of how the nature of Maya or illusion or this reality that we live in, what it is. And so I want you to start thinking more deeply about these things. My hope is that there are people who will be watching this, whether live or recorded, who will have an opportunity to actually feel better. You know, when we talk about the matrix and we talk about exiting the matrix, a big theme is wanting to feel freedom. So the one thing that I want to address and focus on is how you can have that state of being liberated. If you feel as though you are trapped within a soulless, lifeless matrix of false reality, if you believe that you are being held captive in this reality by more powerful beings who are deceiving you, who are vampirically stealing your life force energy, who are torturing you with this endless, either outright sadness or horror, or if it's just boredom, if you're just bored with life. My hope is that you'll get something out of this to understand not only is that an incomplete understanding of what our reality is, but more importantly, I want to open you to some ideas that will give you some power so that you have some tools to gain power over your reality, so that not only are you not a slave to your reality, but you enjoy your reality, you feel fulfilled, you feel happy, you enjoy being in this Maya, this illusion that we call human life. But even more so, I want you to feel like you have the remote control so that you can change the aspect. You know, the one aspect about the movie, The Matrix, that I think is so brilliant is that Neo at the end gains power. So you got to understand that this movie called The Matrix is just that, it's a movie. And I know a lot of people look for hidden secrets in movies, and I do too, but from a different perspective. I look for hidden mythological teachings. I look for symbolic teachings that the universe is giving to us. And so Neo is you, the one. You, when we are experiencing our lives, we are the one. We see it from our perspective, our singular perspective. And so to become Neo means to be yourself, to really become fully empowered within your own innate powers. There's nobody else out there that's going to save you. You're going to do it for you. And so what I've learned is that there are tools out there, not only actual magical shamanic tools that you can use to take control over your matrix, but there are magical techniques that will empower you and connect you to the living matrix. And what's most important is to understand that there is a state where you can be where the matrix, on the one hand, you surrender to it, and at the same time, you are master of it. And this is a very deep subject, and maybe we'll get into some of it in some of the mythologies. And again, my belief is that our ancestral mythology, you know, I'm talking about myths that go back, the Norse myths, Greek myths, Vedic myths, you know, all the creation myths that you find that go back deep into prehistory. These myths actually tell us about not only the nature of our reality, but give us tips if you know how to read them, if you know how to listen. So I've spent, the vast portion of my adult life. I'm now ripe old age of 53. I'm still a youngster, but I've spent some time looking into not only mythology, but mythology as it relates to the path of true wisdom teachers. You can call them shamans, you can call them wizards, you can call them spiritual masters. I don't care what you call them. But these are people who have peeked under the veil to see what's behind the matrix, to see what's there. And when you learn how to do that, especially with energy, and there are ways that you can tap into and feel the energy, the immense amount of energy that's surrounding you. When you learn how to do that, you can start bending the laws of reality. You can start to see that this illusion is not a prison unless you yourself are imprisoned within you. So we'll talk about that. As always, I always like to start these Q&As by doing a lot of talking here. As you come on, looks like that there's a few of us here. 6 are watching. 8 are watching now. Okay, so as more people come on, please feel free to ask questions. Understand that the best way to interact with me is to ask a question. If you come on here to spout your opinion, I'm probably going to want to analyze it, and if I find some holes in it, I'm going to pick it apart because I want to help you. But the best way to get me to respond is just simply ask my opinion about something, and then I will wax or rant and rave about it, and then you'll either get your question answered or you'll have an idea of where I am in terms of this. But feel free to ask any questions. If I do not respond to your question, it either means that I don't feel I have something valuable to say, or it may not be directly relevant to something that's in my mind. You know, I can only handle one thought at a time, and my mind gets filled with all these thoughts, and as this stuff inside of me gets unpacked and as I'm getting information that's downloaded into me, I get very distracted, and so I can only do one thing at a time. So if I don't answer your question, don't take it personally, but don't be afraid to keep asking me, because sometimes I miss things. Be respectful to me, be respectful to each other, and ask questions, and we'll have a good time. So this is, as I've said, probably one of my most favorite things, and what I want to focus on here now, that I've got a few of you on here, is I want to talk to you about the word matrix. What does the matrix mean? Well, if we follow popular mythology, especially if we follow what's happening online, people will say that the matrix is a computer program that we live in, that it's an illusion, that it really has no connection to reality, and that it is a false computer program designed to keep us distracted, designed to lie to us in order to keep us from finding out the truth that we are in fact trapped in a lifeless computer program which we call the matrix. There's all kinds of thoughts about that, but one of the most popular ones is this idea that the matrix is a computer program that we are thrust into. We live in this false matrix, and that there are beings, whether you call it Jehovah or whether you call it the archons or whatever you want to call it, these beings, false beings of light, who keep us trapped in here. And according to the modern mythology is that as you exit the body, these beings of light stand guard over the matrix, and as you try to leave, they will try to convince you that you aren't done yet with your karma, and therefore you need to go back into the matrix, you need to go back and be reborn. And that the idea is that these false beings of light are actually captors that are feeding off of our energy. That's just one of the many, there's all kinds of things out there. So the reason why I want to talk about that is because let's again talk about the word matrix. What does it mean? Matrix comes from the Latin. In fact, it is Latin. It's purely Latin. And it comes from the word mother. And it is, it means, literally it means from the mother. And it's another word for womb. And then it's become, you know, in as time has gone on, it's become words that, for instance, like if you want to grow a culture of bacteria, you put it in a matrix. You know, you put it in a culture that it can feed off of. But we kind of have this idea that it's this woven matrix. You know, there's this thought process of it being woven, and it weaves around us, and all of those thoughts have some connection to ancient mythological understanding of the nature of, at the very least, three-dimensional universe. But we could even say it goes beyond that. So as you saw in the beginning, you know, I put some pictures of that to emphasize that. And even in the first matrix, you see this code, right? But even the code, it still has that, you know, in the picture of the movie The Matrix, when the code is coming down, it still has that appearance of, you know, something that's weaving together. It's a veil that is woven, excuse me, that creates a sort of a false reality. So let's just look at that theme here, and I've got a few things in here. I've got even Spider-Woman. I was looking for something having to do with, you know, the mythological Spider-Woman who weaves the universe, but I found there's an actual Spider-Woman apparently in comic books. But I thought that was so cool, you know, the superhero kind of thing. Anyway, so, you know, get this into your brain pan as we talk about some more of these subjects. And again, feel free to post any of your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And that last picture of the mother, and within that, this is an interesting concept. That picture, the reason why I have that in there and I put it on there longer than others is because I get just a really strong feeling from it. Maybe it's just me. We've talked about projection. Perhaps I project onto it because I have such a strong personal connection to the idea of the eternal mother. But in that picture, you see that the goddess, Maya, creates the illusion of three-dimensional reality. And remember, illusion in mythological speak is not the same as illusion as we talk about it now. We live in a very cynical time where people just do not believe anything that's put in front of them. I mean, you know, when it comes to the news, this is one of the toughest and most difficult things for me personally, to hear people going off about the news this and the fake news this and the liberal media that or the right-wing media that. There's just news. You know, there's just reporting. But people have such a distrust of any form of information that's given to them, it's hard for them to believe anything. They can't even believe what's right in front of them. And so I hope to give you a different perspective of that. I want to focus on the lies that are being fed to us, as well as the truth, and as well as what we have lost. So understand that this cynical attitude towards reality is a direct result of what we have lost over the past 2,000 years in terms of our ancestral shamanic understanding of the nature of the universe and the nature of time and the nature of, you know, like the name for, one of the names for the mother goddess is Maya, which means illusion. But when we talk about it in a traditional sense, Maya is not a goddess to be feared or mistrusted. She is a goddess who brings love and tremendous amounts of love. So much so that even the Trinity, and we saw that, Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva are in the hands of the goddess. That she even cradles them in the Maya of their illusion that they are running the universe. That she is the matrix, she is the bedrock, she is the source of all life and all creation. And that makes her the matrix, makes her the womb of everything. So, we need to expand our understanding of what that means in order not only to get the most out of life, but there's a lot in the mythology that teaches us that if we can have an accurate understanding of ourselves, of the nature of the Mother Goddess, and our relationship to her, that the illusion is that you are trapped. That's the illusion. Just like people say, that is the illusion. But when you can understand who you truly are, then what happens is that the universe serves you. And we'll talk about that. There's some indications in some of the mythology about what that is and how that is, and how you can tap into that. So let me take a look and see what's going on here in terms of viewers. Again, I keep seeing this red light going on and off, so if the connection goes bad, my apology. Hopefully it won't be too distracting here. So let's see here. All right, so I don't know who this is. It just says D Money Ali says hello there, and then A says hi, great to be here, thanks for your wisdom and insight. What's your opinion on psychedelics and marijuana? Okay, so I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that you asked that question because this is something that you use, probably to enhance your experience of your reality. So again, we have to be specific. What kind of psychedelics? We also have to be talking about what is the context that it's used. Is it used in a traditional context? Is it used, again, all these things come into play here, and that could change everything. First, let me say, I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again because we're talking about Maya and illusion. Psychedelics, power plants of all kinds have their place, and they've been used for centuries. The Vedics used them, the Taoists used them, pretty much every culture has used them. Even the yew tree, where European shamans would sit under the yew tree, that has a psychedelic effect because the leaves themselves, the needles are poisonous, and it releases a gas that comes out of the tree that actually will put you in a shamanic state. But bear in mind, it's because it's a poison. So you're being put in an altered state of consciousness. I've said this before, but this is especially true of marijuana. Marijuana, what it does is whatever else it does on a chemical nature, I'm not a scientist, but from a shamanic perspective, marijuana literally sucks all the energy out of your aura and shoves it up your spinal column and blows your head up like a balloon. So if you've noticed, when you take marijuana, that's what happens. You go, ah. And so it also does something else. It forces you to hyper-focus on details, which is why people get freaked out on marijuana. One of the reasons, because you're so hyper-focused on details that it gets overwhelming. Now, if you've ever been with people that are smoking marijuana and you're not, you'll notice lots of times they get into some really deep discussions about, hey man, my fingernail has a universe in it, or my fingers can touch everything but themselves, man. And they get really into whatever it is that seems mind-blowing to them, but when we listen to it, it sounds ridiculous. The reason for that is because when you're not on marijuana, you're not so hyper-focused. But there can be some great insights that can come from any of these things, especially when used in proper context. But for the most part, they do have a very deleterious effect on the nervous system and on the energy body. And if you'll notice, like let's say people who smoke a lot of marijuana, they're coughing all the time, they get sick all the time, they get colds, they get flu. It's because your aura is your first and last defense. And so when you're constantly depleting your aura of energy to have that experience, then of course you lose your ability to fight off any incoming negativity. So when it comes to really strong psychedelics, which nowadays marijuana is really, really strong, it's might as well be called acid because it's a lot stronger than it was years ago. But when we're talking about really powerful psychedelics, what it's meant to do is crack your aura open so that you can see into the veil. Now here's the problem. If you're not doing it in a traditional setting where a master shaman is guiding the process, you run the risk of opening yourself up to any spiritual influence, not excluding your own unconscious fantasies. This is the other thing. You know, the cultures that use power plants traditionally, when you've grown up in a shamanic environment where you've grown up in connection to nature, that also means that psychologically you are also healthy and strong and intact. Modern Westerners especially are not. And that's not our fault. We've been born into this motherless society that has, you know, filled us with all kinds of problems and difficulties and lies. And so most of us on an emotional level have a lot of cleaning up to do. So the problem is if you do these kinds of things, especially out of context, and if you do it out of a need, like I can't stand reality, I need to, or I can't stand this false reality, and I want to connect to something pure and true, or, you know, I want to feel good. If you're doing it for those reasons, you're setting yourself up to be deceived by your own unconscious mind. And so that's a whole other subject, you know, which is, I want to talk about while I'm on the subject now. I've sort of rambled about that, and, you know, hopefully I haven't pushed people's buttons too hard on that. But bottom line is, my view is that it's great when done properly. I think it should be done sparingly. I don't think people should do, you know, strong psychedelics more than once or twice in a lifetime. In fact, I've seen people who do it more than that. It ends up having diminishing returns. And of course, you have emotional addiction, and you have people who've been seriously messed up, like for life, and some people who die. You can OD on these things. So even though we call it medicine, you have to respect it, and you have to understand that you're messing with your own, seriously messing with your own internal chemistry. And the last thing I'll say about psychedelics is that, you know, I've done my share, especially as a kid. I did my share, and you know, as a shaman, of course, you know, you have to experiment. But the Taoists and the Vedics stopped using psychedelics thousands of years ago, and the reason they did was because they found that the same effects and greater can be had by learning how to release those same chemicals in the pituitary and the pineal through yogic meditation, through chanting, through qigong, through other really intense methods that take time. You know, I've practiced celestial qigong and its precursor to spirit fighting, and the experiences that I've had with that energy practice is far more intense than anything I ever did with any external power plant or chemical. And there's no downside, there's no side effects. So it ends up teaching the brain how to release those chemicals more and more and more, and then you end up having power instead of losing it. Like I said, psychedelics tend to drain you of power. So even though you have these intense experiences, when you come off of them, you're actually weaker, and physically you're weaker, but when you do actual energy work, not only do you have more intense experiences, but you end up having a lot more power. And the power increases, and you get healthier instead of less healthy. So there's my take on that. While I'm on the subject, if you really want to have, in my experience anyway, the most powerful energy experience, which for me is far more powerful, and for others as well, far more powerful than any psychedelic, I would recommend doing Celestial Qigong, which is this DVD here. I think you can also get a streaming version online, but again, you got to be careful with that too. So anyway, it's important to take care of our bodies, especially when we're doing energy work. Anyway, so hope I answered your question there. Before I go into more questions, let me talk about the mother. Again, we're talking about the matrix. The mother, and matrix means of the mother. And so the idea is that the feminine, the base feminine power of the universe, which precedes everything, has created this matrix, this Maya, this illusion for us to experience our lives in. Now, whether or not you're going to have a positive or negative experience, or an empowering or disempowering experience in this matrix illusion, has to do with how you deal with the reflection. Because one of the things that the mother is, among all other things, this is very important, I'm getting a real strong hit here. The most powerful aspect of the feminine is to reflect. You know, if you ever see those pictures of Jesus and Mary, it's that picture of the baby Jesus looking up at Mother Mary, and she has this calm look of love. And what she's doing is, and this is, again, this is what it's teaching us, what we're supposed to do with our children. For teachers, what they're supposed to do with their students. We talked about this. Go back and watch the gazing videos and how do spiritual masters heal. I talk about this, reflection and projection. So remember those two words, projection and reflection. It starts with the mother, ideally. When she's looking at the infant, she is a blank slate with just love. And that love has no judgment. It does not project onto the child. It just reflects. And so the child looks into the mother's eyes and sees himself or herself as they truly are. And the idea is that reflection of the mother back to the human being or to the child, eventually the child will learn that it is in fact divine, that it is infinite. Just to give you an example, you know, a really easy example would be, you know, these shows like, I forget the name of that show, you know, like The Voice, what was the other one? Anyway, you know, these shows where the music talent shows where people go on and try to become big stars. You'll notice that even if the most talented contestant does not have a supportive family, they almost always will sabotage their own victory. But the ones that win are the ones who have their mother and their father and their family with the, you know, the big plaques in the audience go, "Yay, we love you, yay!" Because that shows that their family, the mother aspect of that, the nurturing aspect, reflects back to them, and without projection, reflects back to them that they are loved and accepted and empowered and whatever else, and those are the ones that win. So it's getting kind of dark here, so I gotta turn my lights on. So let's see. Oops. And my apologies if I flashed my underwear at you. So that's the first thing. We have to talk about reflection. And the power of the mother is to reflect. So understand this. If you live in a universe where you are trapped, where nothing goes your way, where you are lonely, where you are disempowered, where you were victimized, and I'm not judging it. I have lived that, and I still experience those experiences and those emotions. So by no means am I trying to say that I am above any of that. I have lived that, and if you knew some of the extent of my life and my background, you would know that I don't need to hyperbolize. I've lived that. If you are one of those people who you experience that way, the universe that way, if you feel like you are trapped, if you feel the universe has it in for you or that it's empty and lifeless, that is because the universe is reflecting back to you what you are projecting. Now, that doesn't mean that you are thinking consciously to yourself, I want to project negativity for myself. That's not what's going on. Nobody does that. Everybody consciously wants positivity and strength and empowerment and nourishment. It means it's happening on an unconscious level. Unconscious means you're not aware of it. That's the whole key. You're unaware of it. So let me talk to you about the underworld and my experience with the goddess Hela. And she, among all of the gods and goddesses, is the most neutral, reflecting surface you will ever find. That's why she's so frightening. If you notice, the pictures of Hela is that she's half corpse and half beautiful virgin. Same thing with Kali, the goddess of death, as people call her, which she's not at all. She's seen as this emaciated, monstrous looking thing with a big belly and saggy, droopy breasts, and a necklace of severed skulls, and blood is coming out of her mouth. And so, but she's the most beautiful, the most loving. It means that when a true aspect of the mother comes to you to heal you, if you are trapped in your own unconscious whatever, that's what you're going to see. And she is allowing you to see what is being reflected back at you so that you can release it. In fact, I remember at one point in my life, a long time ago, I won't get into too much detail, but I remember I would close my eyes in bed and I would see in my mind's eye next to me in bed this skeleton woman looking at me like this, and it used to scare the crap out of me. And as I look back, that was the time in my life when I began to truly begin the long process of facing all of my unconscious issues. I began healing. So even though it was frightening to me back then, I look back at it now and I know that was the mother, that I was surrounded by the mother who wasn't going to let go. And I was seeing the reflection of my own projection onto her. So when people go to the underworld, whether that be in life or actually dying and going to the underworld, the goddess will reflect. This is why people are afraid of going to the underworld, because the underworld will reflect what you have created, whatever you've created for yourself, whatever truly false illusions. And the biggest illusion is that you are unloved. The biggest illusion is that you are undeserving, that you are not beautiful, that you are not infinite. That is the biggest illusion, and it's the illusion we create for ourselves based on our own ego, and we could get into that. But that's one of the things that the mother does, is she heals problems associated with the false ego. And by false ego, I don't mean, some stupid person who thinks of themselves. That may be how they react. I mean, it's false, meaning it's limited. People who are insecure, people who are mean, who are abusive, and who are tyrants and have narcissistic ego issues are people who are really, their ego is very small and emaciated and immature, and they're full of pain and fear. So that's the false ego, is that you see yourself that way when in reality the mother sees you very differently. Now, When it comes to the love of the mother, the true love of the mother, we see in Hella. And when I visited her and had the privilege and the honor of having experiences with her, what I saw was the most love I've ever experienced. But it's not the kind of love that we fantasize about. She was very neutral. But behind that neutrality was an unceasing love that I have a hard time comprehending. And the way that you know that she loves you is that she will never judge you. That's why a lot of people go to the underworld and live in hells, like as the Christian hell. They live in places of torment. That's because they create it. They bring all of their self-directed negativity and their judgment, and they're left alone with that. And the mother will be there with you. In fact, she is the, if you want to look at it as the cell that surrounds you, she is the one that is there with you. And if you come in there hating yourself, she's not going to stop you and say, don't hate yourself, love yourself. She is going to let you be wherever you are for as long as you need to be there. That's how much she loves you. Never, I mean, I get emotional when I think about it. She never judges. And she never tries to talk you out of your feelings. You know, that's one thing I really don't like. I don't like it when, if I'm having a difficult time, people want to talk me out of my negative feelings. Buck up, buddy, it'll be okay. Turn that frown upside down. You know, sometimes you just need to have your feelings, whatever they are. And she's not afraid of any of your negative feelings. Sadness, fear, hatred, whatever it is. I don't care. Think of the worst human being that's ever lived. She has no judgment on any of them. Because she knows that the judgment that we give ourselves is worse than anything anybody can do to us. You know, and I think about the people in my life who I've experienced as tormentors, especially as a kid. And I look back on them and, you know, whatever revenge I would have wanted to get, I think about it now, having watched them live their lives. There's nothing in the world I could do that could be anywhere near as bad as what they do to themselves. And so this is where we get compassion from. So that is the mother. The mother is true, neutral projection with just a slight tint of love behind it. But she's not going to impose that on you. So this is why if you live in a universe where you're imprisoned and tortured and, you know, all these other things, it means that you are projecting that from your own self-hatred. And I'm not judging you because we are, you know, we live in especially a very imperfect time in history. But we live with imperfect people and we pick up all kinds of things as we're growing up. You know, and we, you know, here's the thing about negativity. Whether it's hatred, whether it's bigotry, whether it's judgment, whether it's whatever it is, it's always self-directed. The only difference is that there are some people who actually try and project it outward. But whoever they're mad at, they're always mad at themselves. And there are some people who project it inward. They project it all inward. But whatever it is, it's always self-directed. So that's important to know. And that's what the underworld is all about. Going to release your self-directed negativity, your self-directed illusion. Again, the illusion is that you are weak. That's the illusion, that you are unloved, that you are, you know, that you're a prisoner, whatever it is. That's the illusion. The reality is that the matrix is a giant reflector of you. And so if we can become aware of the ways that we focus negativity on ourselves and actually accept the true reality of our nature, as I talked about when, you know, Mother Mary's looking at the baby Jesus and she's just reflecting back to him, not projecting, just reflecting back his divinity. That when we can get to that place, then what happens is the mother, the matrix, will create our most fulfilling fantasy in this life. And that is the whole purpose. That is the game. That is the point of the Matrix. When people who no longer need to incarnate arrive, it's because they get to that place where they understand that they are everything, that they are loved, that they love themselves, that they do not need it from outside sources. And they can then reflect that love from the universe. At that point, that's when they leave. And they can then become ascended masters, or in my tradition, they become one of the light elves. So that's how projection and reflection work with each other. So I hope I'm communicating that well. So let me take a look and see if there's any questions or comments. Hopefully the stream is still staying strong, so let's take a look. So Wizard Thought says, so as spiritual people, is it not in our best interest to be concerned with the problems of the world? Yeah, basically. You know, I mean, I'm not saying be, well, I don't know, be whatever you want. You know, this is why wizards would go up onto mountaintops, and this is why, you know, yogis go out into the jungle, you know, because of that same thing. You know, we get filled with all this nonsense. I mean, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why is it now the idea of the Matrix, the modern mythology of the Matrix is that it's a computer program. Never in history have we had that. So if I take that at face value, it means that if we follow the modern mythology that this Matrix is a computer program that we're forced to live in, then that means that computers have been around for millions of years, right? Do we honestly believe that? Do we think that computers are human-made, or do the gods have computers? I know a lot of people want to believe that, but that seems really ridiculous to me and very narcissistic, that we're projecting our own experience, which is fine. That's what all mythology is to some extent. We're projecting our experience onto eternity, saying, well, it's a computer program, a lifeless, empty computer program. So then the question is, why is that? I mean, and there are people who believe that. They believe that more than they believe anything else. You can put something in their hand and they will believe this idea that it's all a computer program and it's fake. It's because that's how we live. We live in a... You are listening to me right now through a computer program that's being blasted onto your phone or your computer or your iPad or whatever it is, or your smart TV. That's how powerful this idea is, and we are so addicted to our technology. You know, again, I'm 53, so I grew up in a time where television was, you know, you had maybe 3 decent channels and the rest were, you know, nonsense. And you know, had to wait around. You had to read from the TV guide to see when, you know, the Brady Bunch or Batman or whatever was going to be on, or Star Trek or whatever was going to be on TV. And you had no choice. You had to wait for that time. You couldn't record it. And, you know, you couldn't decide which one to watch. If you came in at the, you know, the middle of the season, that's where you had to start. We had no control over that. Phones you had to pick up off the wall and dial. We didn't even have answering machines, as crazy as that sounds. How come nobody figured out how to make answering machines? So we didn't have that, but we still had a lot of technology. But, you know, I'm totally addicted now. I mean, I'm looking at my iPad every 20 seconds to see if I've got new emails. Even if I'm lying on the bed watching television, I'll pull out and see it. So imagine somebody who's grown up in that. I didn't grow up in that. You grow up in that, that's your reality. So if you honestly believe you're trapped in a matrix, it's because you are. And I've experienced this, you know, for years now, for you know, 15 years probably I've experienced where, you know, people have wanted to learn either Qigong or they've wanted to learn spirit fighting or martial arts. And there are people who have wanted me to teach them via Skype martial arts. And when I explain to them, I can't do that, they get upset because there's this whole consumer, you know, we have this consumer culture now, society that believes that everything is instantaneous. I go online, I can get anything I want. In fact, there are people who honestly believe that if you can't find something on the internet, it never happened. These are young guys. This example, there's a guy, he's a bodybuilder, and he's my age, and he's also a power lifter, and anyway, and so he talks about all these awards that he won, and there are people, trolling him online, telling him that never happened. And you know how I know that never happened? Because I can't find it online. If it had happened, it would be somewhere online. I mean, this is the thought process. People are so, that's again the matrix idea. If it's not in the computer program, it doesn't exist. So what this belies is that people who believe that they're trapped in the matrix, and the matrix is a computer program, and that's the only thing that exists, because that's the truth for them. And if you don't believe me, then I challenge you to do this. Go backpacking in the Sierras, where you have no internet, no telephone, no nothing. Spend 2 weeks in the backcountry. Bring people with you if you want, but if you really want to see what it's like, go by yourself. I have some videos I did a long time ago where I chronicled that, and this is me being who I am, having grown up a long time ago. But still, man, we are so programmed by all of this input that comes in through the internet. That is a false reality. I completely agree. But there is an actual reality, which is life force energy. So anyway, I'm going to now do some business here. Hopefully there are some people that are still coming on. We got 14 people on. So by the way, anybody who wants to interact with me on a personal level, there are numerous ways to do that, and I'm going to do some business little commercial right now for that. So I'll be back in about 30 seconds. Okay, so I love that picture of the Spider Woman. I mean, I don't know that comic, but for me, it's just kind of cool. Now you can sort of modernize the whole mother goddess, and make her look cool and sexy and strong and all that, and superhero. I like that. All right, so let me see if there's any questions here that I haven't got to, and let me see here. So I think I answered Wizard Thought's question. Renee Petronovich was just meditating on this tonight. She says, this thunderstorm has me tuned up that I can't sleep. Laugh out loud. I'll listen till I get tired. Okay, then she asks, what is the role of tools like runes and ritual in escaping the matrix? And once we are, I'm assuming that is out, once we are out of the matrix, when is the best time to start going back and using the matrix to our advantage? Okay. All right, so Renee, let me answer your first question. What is the role of tools like runes and ritual in escaping the matrix? I'm really enjoying this 9-world rune reading. And the reason why I do is because, the universe as we understand it, according to my shamanic heritage, is that there are 9 dimensions of reality which go into creating this. And so the 9th dimension would be Midgard, Middle Yard, Middle Earth. It's where we live. It's where we live out our experience. But we have, you call them tendrils, or we're connected to all the other 9 realms. And so those 9 realms, those 9 dimensions of reality are constantly, influencing us. So one of the things is that the idea of having to escape the matrix is a false idea. What people want to escape is their projection. That's all they're trying to get out of. Once you escape your projection, you don't want to leave the matrix. It's fun here. The mother, once you escape your projection, you get to be embraced. You know, think about it. There isn't anybody on this planet who doesn't want to be loved. Even if they say, I don't want love, that's ridiculous, it's because they've been hurt so many times, they're afraid to make themselves available to it. But honestly, what happens when you get out of the matrix of your own projection, your false projection, this is what's waiting for you. Nothing but pure love, pure bliss. So that's what people think escaping the matrix is. It's not the matrix you're escaping, because matrix again means mother. It means the womb of the mother, the emanation of the mother, which is everything. There is nothing that is not the mother. Nothing. I don't care what realm of reality you're talking about. There's the mother there who has created that. And that in and of itself is Maya, is illusion. So you can't escape that. But what people want to escape is being in pain. If you could create an illusion that felt real to you, where you felt loved, you wouldn't want to leave. And this idea, I want the truth. What does that mean, the truth? The truth is that you are an infinite being, that you are everything. That's the truth. But without love, it's empty and overwhelming and frightening. This is, by the way, one of the problems that people go through, including myself, when they go from monotheism to shamanic awareness or polytheism. Because polytheism doesn't say that there's one creator God that creates, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say that. And even then, if you ask that, well then, what's behind the creator God? He was all by himself? That must have been lonely. He created people so that he wasn't so alone. So the idea of being all-powerful and infinite without love is pointless. There's no, that's the worst, that's what we fear the most, isolation. We fear that worse than death. That's why, by the way, agnostics and atheists are comforted at the idea that there is no God or afterlife. Because many of them, I'm assuming, I don't know all of them, but I believe that many of them have been programmed to believe in a monotheist universe. They've come to the realization that either the monotheist God, Jehovah, is cruel and ridiculous, or that the whole idea is nonsense, which I totally get, and so they discard it. But there's no other option in their mind. They don't then look to some other spiritual understanding, because in their mind there's only one God. So when you reject that one God, there's nothing else to believe in. But the idea of living eternally in an empty universe is horrible. It's worse than anything. Being alone in infinity, nobody wants that. So when you escape the matrix, the false projection of your unconscious self-directed negativity, when you escape that, what's waiting for you is pure love. A love beyond anything you can comprehend, and you can have that right now. This is why people are reincarnated. This is why there are things like demons. Because just because you've left your body and you're experiencing some other frame of reality doesn't take away your illusion or your projection. This is why there are negative entities running around, because they're trapped in their own negative projection. And this is why, as I teach people, you can't be, possessed or harmed or, hurt by negative entities unless you yourself share that same negative projection that they do. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I was an exorcist for years. I started out, as a kid. In my teens, I was an exorcist. And I learned very quickly, I think by the time I was probably 18 or 19 years old, I learned very quickly that people who became possessed were people who had all kinds of unresolved issues, usually people who had been severely emotionally or physically or sexually assaulted. And they had such self-hatred and such hatred towards their abuser, that they couldn't handle the actual pain of releasing that, and so they needed distraction. And so what they didn't realize, and I know this is going to maybe hurt or offend some people, but it's my experience, I believe it to be true, is that the pain of healing from that is so difficult that people would rather be distracted by all kinds of craziness and chaos, and have other and that's what it is. It's a club. It's it says that like attracts like. And when you're feeling sorry for yourself in a self-destructive way, you seek out other people who feel sorry for themselves, so you can get together and talk about how horrible things are, and the universe this, and people that, and men this, and women that. Right? That's what happens when people are getting possessed. These are people who are in desperate need of learning to love themselves, and they can't allow themselves to go through the pain of releasing it, and so it attracts other negative entities. And what ends up happening is that there is an unconscious energetic contract. Now, sometimes there's an actual contract where somebody will make a contract with a negative entity. But usually it happens on an unconscious level, and the contract goes like this. The human being says that they are in so much pain that they're asking, will the entity please distract them? And the entity says, well, can I abuse you? And yeah, abuse me, that's great. That will get me distracted from all of the real pain and blah, blah, blah. Because I just had this. I just spoke with somebody who was complaining of this, and when I started talking about what the real issue was, this person didn't want to work with me. They would rather be trapped in that self-created chaos than actually be relieved. That's very sad. Anyways, I don't judge it because it's a very difficult thing. But again, it's just, this is how much the goddess loves us, is that she allows us the dignity of going through very challenging things so that we can learn how to master. This is, you got to look at this thing in the long haul. This is just one lifetime. Anybody who's played video games, especially the old arcade style video games, while you're playing the video game, even if it's going for a long time, it feels like forever until your man dies. And then all of a sudden you're and then you get another quarter and you go back right in there. But that's what it's like this lifetime. When it's over with, we're going to look back on it. It'll feel like a dream. In fact, how many people listening to me now have had dreams where you had entire lifetimes? I have. I've had dreams where I've had entire lifetimes, decades of experience. And I remember one, it took me a really long time to come out of it. I woke up and I was like, where am I? What is this? And it took me a while for my life in this reality to sort of come back into my mind, and I had to, oh yeah, oh wow, that was a dream? But it was an entire lifetime. So that's what it's like. And so no matter how painful things are now, know that when the dream is over, you're going to look back and it won't be as painful as you're experiencing it now. Because what's waiting for us on the other side is pure love. That's what's waiting for us. And it doesn't matter that you haven't gotten it perfect yet. It doesn't matter. That love is still waiting there for you. And, so anyway, I forgot what the question was, but okay, so the second half of your question, Renee, once we are out of the matrix, isn't that interesting? It almost says, it looks like put out. I wonder if that's a Freudian slip there. Do you feel like somebody's going to knock you out, put you out of something, kick you out? Once we are out of the matrix, when is the best time to start going back and using the matrix to our advantage? You never go back, you're always in it. You never get out of it. The matrix, it's just, you're getting out of your own projection. So once you're out of your own projection, you never have to go back to your projection. So to answer your question, you never have to go back. Once you're out, you never have to go back. Because it's all right here. And no matter where you go, this is, I hear people talk about, they're going to do this, and I hate this life, and once I'm out of the matrix, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And I say, but once you're out of the matrix, you still have yourself. You'll create another hell for yourself. It won't matter how far away you go. Wherever you go, there you are. So you might as well just take care of it here and now and do the difficult things. Listen, learning how to do all this stuff takes a lot of discipline. I am here to give you the tools. I'm here to give you the, the cheats, mantra, Vedic astrological information. Runes are an excellent example. I love doing the 9 world rune reading. It's my new thing. I just love it. I get so high doing it because I can see all of the aspects of what's happening to the individual. And I do it for myself. It's like, when you don't know where to put the energy or what to do to fix the problem, you first need to know which world is being affected the most. Where's the block? Is it in your unconscious mind? Is it in your identity? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your ability to project? Is it in your physical body? Is it because you're not listening to the ancestors? Is it because you're not connecting to the gods? Where is it? And I can find this by looking at the 9 world rune reading. So that's one of the ways that we can use the runes. Anyway, so it's a very huge question you've asked. It would take me millennia to answer it all, but those are just some things. The tools, Qigong, Celestial Qigong, is another tool that we can use, because when you do Qigong, 2 things are going to happen. Real Qigong, the kind of stuff that I teach, the real stuff. 2 things are going to happen. Let's see if I can get them all right. First one is that you are going to tap in directly to this loving energy. You're going to feel it. And it's going to be, you're going to feel this nurturing and the power, and you're going to realize that when you look under the flap of the intellect, we're trapped in our intellect. People who think they live in a matrix are trapped in their intellect. They're trapped in the computer up here. And the intellect is not the mind. It is the hardware. It's the computer for the soul. It's not the mind. The mind is greater than that. It's the intellect. So one of the first things you'll see is you'll be able to peek under the matrix, and you'll feel the true life force energy. And the second thing that's going to happen is you will be forced to look at some of your unconscious false projections, the matrix that you create, the false matrix that you create. Again, people who want to get out of the matrix don't realize that they want to get out of their own false projection that they've created. That's what they want. They don't know that there's something beyond that. They think that's what it is. So the matrix isn't that. That's your own projection. So when you do real energy work, the second thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to face some of those difficult things, and then you're going to have to make a difficult choice, which is just like the people who get possessed. They have to make a choice of actually owning up to the real issues that are much more painful and frightening than being, having a ghost or a demon bother them. And so the same thing here. When to get out of that matrix, you have to look at, what? You have been wanting to create that false matrix because there's something in it that gives you some comfort, or you wouldn't have created it. And I know you say, how is that possible? I'm so miserable. Because going through looking at the real pain and releasing the real pain is even more painful than that. But the good news is that that's an illusion too. The pain, as difficult as it is also a liberation that will get you to that place of pure love. And that love will be there for you. So when you do real energy work, you can tap into that love, and then the mother, she says, if you want real power, I can't lie to you. I have to tell you the truth. Let me reflect back to you what's in your own projection that you need to clean out. And she will hold your hand through that. And so by doing the energy work, you have the power to clean it out. This is why, it's suggested to do mantra or ritual or meditation or prayer every day, whatever it is, because that continuously keeps us connected to the power of the matrix, to empower us to work through it. Okay? So hopefully I answered your question there. Is this why 9/11 was chosen? There's a lot of stuff in there that I don't know. Probably a lot of conspiracy theory stuff I don't know. Saturn, twin pillars, the Arch of Baal. By the way, Baal was actually pronounced Baal. Is this why 9/11 was chosen? Again, there's all kinds of stuff in there. Look, man, I don't do the conspiracy theory thing. It's a waste of time. Whether it's true or not, it's a waste of time. There's no freedom to be found in chasing after conspiracy theories. Okay? And here's how I know that. I would be more than happy to expose what I know to be true about our current government system and our insurance system and our financial system. You know, I'm not saying that conspiracies don't exist. A lot of them are nonsense, and a lot of them, the real ones, are there. But the point is that if you live in a relationship to the mother, and you live in a relationship where you are constantly cleaning your projection so that you can see the reflection of the mother, when you do that, you get everything you need. You have physical health, you have safety, you have finances or resources, whatever that is. Some people, you don't even need finances. You know, there have been times in my life when I've had no money or been in debt, and I've lived like a king, because I chose to live in direct connection to the mother, direct connection to the universe, to the true universe. And I have everything I need, and all that stuff is nonsense. So you can get caught up in that if you want, and I can understand why. It's really, you know, listen, I watch the news. It's very entertaining, you know, and depends. It doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you're on. It's very entertaining. But I don't let it ruin my life. I don't worry about my health insurance. I don't worry about any of that stuff. I know that if I follow the program within me, which is the soul desire that's given to me by me before I was born, that the universe will always give me not only what I need, but everything that I truly want. And that's another thing. People don't even know what they really want. So sometimes people have everything that they want and they think that they don't have enough. When they, you know, if they were to stop and think about it, they would realize I'm not taking advantage of what I have. Anyway, could go on and on about that. Okay, so Svensson is now having a discussion. I'll let them talk it out about the nature of who Bagal is. What is your opinion on orgasms? Do they deplenish us of energy? Should we avoid intercourse and try and sort out our sexual desires? My opinion on orgasms is that they're very pleasant. I spent 6.5 years celibate, and I became extremely powerful, and I am still enjoying the benefits of that. I mean, part of the reason I'm so healthy now, and that, you know, that sometimes, you know, people, if they look at me, if they know what to look for, they can tell how old I am. But a lot of times there are people out there that don't know how old I am. You know, especially partly because I've lived a healthy lifestyle, but part of it is because I did a ton of energy work as celibate. No, here's the problem when it comes to sexual activity taking your energy away. If you are using sex to escape, you will be depleted of energy. If you are using sexual relationships as a way to escape, it will deplete you of energy. If you are in a relationship and your partner unconsciously wants to take from you, you will feel depleted of energy. So yes, orgasms are a release of energy, but they don't deplete like your energy level. That's not how it works. So if you want to, you know, if you're going to be celibate, the reason to do that is so you can get your identity in check, so that you can have a truly equal relationship. Now, when you're in a relationship where both parties are giving, there's an equal exchange of energy, then the act of love making is actually very empowering and can be used to increase your energy and everything. And we could talk about this whole Tantra thing and how that's been totally taken out of context. And most of the people who talk about tantric sex have no clue what they're talking about. I won't take that time up here. The bottom line is this: if that's an issue for you, then that means that you have a problem with your own identity. And being celibate and meditating and having a teacher will help you, because you can't do that on your own. You have to have somebody who will reflect back to you your unconscious so that you can heal yourself on that level. If you do that, then you have an issue. So if this is an issue for you, I would suggest, first off, don't get legalistic about it. You've got a human body in there that are, you've got to release energy. Do not do any of, especially if you're a male, do not do any of these semen retention things. Don't do that. If you're going to stimulate yourself, release it. And if you're not going to stimulate yourself, then, when the urge gets beyond your ability to handle it, follow the laws of nature. Don't get crazy about it, because then you can harm yourself on all kinds of levels. So just be natural about it. If you want to be celibate, it means that you're not in a relationship with another person. You're going to meditate and try and build up your energy, and you're going to work with a teacher who's going to help you understand your true identity and learn how to empower that. And you can do energy exercises to open up all the meridians and all of that. But then eventually you can have a true connection. It's very possible. So that's my spiel on that. We are antennas. Mr. Velveeta says, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Well, good. I like hearing that. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you very much. Jorel Jackson says, you mix lots of different belief systems, so I take it you believe all people see images of the sacred. Absolutely. There is, look, there's one human race. There's not multiple human races. There's one human race. We all came from one species called Homo sapiens. There were other human species on the planet, two that I know of, the Denisovans and the Neanderthals, and we interbred with both of them. But all of us we all came out of one, experiment, the hominid. We're all one people. Let me share something that's interesting. The word for divinity has the root D-I. That root is, in my research, the oldest root for the Father, the Sky Father. And it is found in multiple traditions, in multiple languages. And I'm not talking like, French and English, which are actually part of the same language group. I'm talking about, the Chinese language group and the Indo-European and the, other language groups. One of the original, perhaps the original name for the Sky Father was D, or T. That's why in the Anglo-Saxon his name is Tyr. Tyr in the Norse. Dieus in the Latin and in the Vedic. And, the god Jupiter is actually Diupiter, Di Pater, Tiu Father, Sky Father, Dieus Pita in the Vedic. Pita, Father, Dieus, Sky, the Sky Father. In Chinese, the name of the emperor who lives in the North Star, the king of the heavens, is named Di. And it's attached to other gods. When a being becomes divine, he gets that root D connected to his name. So this day, we're just one family. And we all went off and learned different things in our language and our societies and our religions. We were taught different things. There are many, many ascended masters out there who have all kinds of knowledge, human and otherwise. And a lot of us, you know, over the course of our human history were pooled together in little communities. And when we did that, our bodies changed depending on what the immediate environment was. I have white skin because my ancestors, my African ancestors, spent 40,000 years in Ice Age conditions and interbreeding with Neanderthals, who themselves had originally come from Africa 250,000 years earlier, and they'd spent 250,000 years in Ice Age conditions, and they got the gene for light eyes and red hair and white skin. It doesn't, the differences are interesting when they give us a specific toolbox that we can use. But there's more alike about us than different. And if somebody is willing to do the work, they can see how all of these things are connected. So I hope I answered your question there. Diogo Batista, what is the Galactic Federation? I don't know if you're joking around or being serious, but the Galactic Federation is something on some television show. Jack Bell says, Thunder Wizard, you da man. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right, so we've gotten about an hour 20 into it. There's been some really great questions in here. Let me once again just go to a self-promotion commercial break. Remember, guys, that all this work that I'm doing here, this is my focus. This is what I do. It's my entire living is this work here and other related stuff. So if you want this work to be empowered, then the best thing to do is to empower yourself by working with me on one of the multiple ways that you can. If you are looking for a way that you can support this channel in a practical way, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at whatever level you want. Monthly subscriptions, I can bank on that. I can look at that and go, oh, that's how much money is coming in. And that gives me time to do this, to just come on for free and talk for 2 hours and rant for 2 hours about this stuff and teach. You know, this is how I get, you know, my enjoyment. Let me see it. It looks like things got stuck here. Things get stuck? Well, the picture is stuck, so I hope you guys are still there. Anyway, what happened here? All right, so I think you guys are still hearing me, but my thing is frozen when I look at that. So I'm just going to assume everything is still good, and I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to do a little bit of, as I said, a little bit of business here, and then we'll come back and I'll see if I have any other things to rant about. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them on for the next 30 seconds, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about now for the next few minutes. I'll get to your. There's at least one other question in there, which I'll get to. Um, so now again to recap, in case there's any people who are coming late, let's see if I can do this in a time efficient manner. The idea that you are trapped in a false, empty matrix by beings of light who are trying to keep you trapped in a video game computer matrix called reincarnation so that they can suck the life out of you. First off, I understand that belief. And I think there have been times in my life where I've actually felt like that, that didn't exist. This was before the Matrix. By the way, I auditioned for the Matrix. I used to be an actor, and I was one of the readers, which meant I was on the other side of the table while actors who ended up being in the movie were coming in and reading across from me and all of that. So interesting that happened for me. I had that experience while they were putting together the Matrix. Obviously, I didn't get cast in anything, but there you go. I was actually playing the part of Neo because at that time when I was younger, I looked like, what's his name, Keanu Reeves. And so they used me to see how other people looked, supposedly, with Keanu Reeves. Of course, I would have been much better at it, but that's a whole other thing. So, see, now what I just did there, that's my projection. Okay, sorry about that. I saw a red light. That's my projection. I got lost in that negative projection of, Hollywood this, and there's a conspiracy in Hollywood against true talent, and that's my negative projection. That I lived with that for years. It still creeps in. It still creeps in. And I find myself going into that place of feeling sorry for myself, and I could have been the next, whatever, Keanu Reeves or whatever it was. Although I hope I would be something else than that. But that's my projection. And I could have chosen to live in that. I could have still been, a 53-year-old bitter waiter somewhere in Hollywood, waiting tables, waiting for my big break. If you live in that, it means that you're not in alignment with your soul desire. Meaning that there is a desire within you that is far better than whatever it is you think you want that you're not getting. But in order to follow that, you have to take a look at your projection, your false projection. And you have to be willing to grow beyond it. And it's painful and it's frightening and it's challenging and it's difficult. But if you can do that, then you can break through to be the other side. So if you have that idea that the Matrix is out to get you, understand again, the root of the word matrix means from the mother. So when you think of true motherly love, I don't know what your mother was like, if your mother loved you or didn't love you. And maybe you can ask that question. Are you projecting onto reality the faults of your own birth mother? Did she not love you enough? Listen, there are some really nasty mothers out there that have done really horrible things on a big scale and on a really subtle level. Just, mothers that don't know how to nurture their children, don't know how to be that empty, reflective surface so that the child can see their divinity being reflected back to them in their mother's eyes. Some mothers just, because they didn't have it, who knows why, they don't do it. They don't know how to do it. And so if you have that feeling that the Matrix is somehow out to get you or is unfeeling or empty, it means that that's how you view the mother of the universe, the feminine creative aspect of the universe. It's interesting, I talked about gazing in the last one, and I'm not going to mention the individual's name, but the person that gave me the idea was somebody who has a very angelic, childish face, and that's all this person does is they stand up in front of a crowd and just look with the blank stare, and the audience is filled with mothers and grandmothers who look up at this childish, innocent face and they just start weeping. And of course they bring their other stuff and they say, you know, he's so pure and he's so innocent. But what's happening is that they are having this experience because the mother within them is being stimulated when they see that what looks like this. He's a man, he's a full-grown man, he's a middle-aged man, but he looks like a little boy. When they see his little boy face, the mother within them comes out. And that's what's healing them. That's why they have this experience of seeing God or being healed, or, you know, there's just so much love in his eyes. It's their love. And he's the excuse for them to experience their love. You know, and that's one of the most amazing things about the feminine, is that the feminine, the power of the feminine is unbelievable. There is no power greater in the universe than the feminine. As we see here in this picture, even the Vedic Trinity is, you know, are the infant children of the feminine. And that is you. You are divinity. You are infinite. And you are here in this matrix of the universe to not only have as much fun as you can possibly have, but to learn to master it. So I'll maybe we'll end on this. I'll see, depends on the questions. But now I want to talk to you about how do you get to the place of controlling the matrix. So there are many myths about this, and I could go into them, but basically, you know, we'll talk about one of the Vedic myths about the goddess. It's called the Chandi path, but it has to do with Parvati and Kali and Chamundi and all those feminine deities. Those warrior deities, feminine warrior deities, which are all about cleansing the unconscious mind of all of these false projections. Those false projections, the names of the demons in the myth, when you translate them, are all human failings. Fear, greed, insecurity, you know, blah, blah, blah. And all of these demons go to attack the mother goddess. And she takes on these different forms to destroy them. Kali is one of them. The reason why there's blood coming out of Kali's mouth and she has this crazed look on her face is because she's destroying, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, she's destroying your self-hatred. She's destroying your insecurity, your ego, you know, all the things that you do to yourself. And we do have an attachment to them, and we do love them, and we get something out of them. I talked about how when I was younger I used to get off on being angry, that was my addiction. I would stick in the, you know, the speed metal. I still do it today, but I'd stick in the speed metal and I would just fill myself with anger. That was my addiction. And we have an addiction to our self-directed negativity. And so it's challenging when she comes in to destroy that, to consume that. And that's what the blood is. There's the blood of demons. There's a, you know, what happened, the reason why Kali was born, Chamundi was born, is because one of the demons is named Rakta Bija, which I forget what it means. It's like the seed of something. Anyway, but the point is that you go to kill him, you know, you stab him, punch him, whatever. When a drop of blood hits the ground, it turns into another one. So if you slice him open and there's just gallons of blood coming out of him, all of those drops of blood, each one turns into a new one. And so instead of fighting one demon, you're fighting infinite numbers of them. Which says that when we're dealing with our ego, and we try and, you know, it's like mercury. You try and stick your finger out, it pops out somewhere else. It's like playing whack-a-mole. You know, and it's never ending. And so Kali is the darkest form, meaning the fiercest form of the mother who loves us so much that she is consuming all of these drops of blood. And that's why her mouth is, that's what that's all is. And so Westerners look at it and think, oh, look at that ugly goddess of death. And it's the mother. I mean, there is nothing fiercer in the universe than a mother protecting her child. Nothing. And there's nothing more loving than the neutrality of Hela, who, regardless of how much you hate yourself, can you imagine the mother seeing her child hating themselves? And she loves you so much, she won't stop you. She'll wait till you tire yourself out. Just like a little kid having a temper tantrum. You can spend an eternity in the underworld punishing yourself if you want. She won't stop you. Because not only does she love you that much, but she respects you that much. So now let's get to the part, how do you control it? In that same myth, where all these other gods and demons and goddesses are fighting it out and drops of blood and all that kind of stuff. One of the demons in the beginning of the myth comes to Parvati, the maiden. At this point, she's the maiden in the wilderness when all the flowers and the mountains and the streams, and she's skipping along, in this state of purity, and along comes one of these demons, who is an emissary of the great ego, who wants her all for himself, and says, if you bow to the great ego, the demon, the great ego, he will make you his queen. And she says, I can't do that. But if you can defeat me in battle, I will become your wife. And what she means by that is that if you can overcome all of your self-directed negativity wrapped up in your false projection of your ego, she will serve you like a queen serves the king. Then she will bow to you as Shiva. And then you get into the myths about Shiva and Parvati, Shiva and Shakti, and Shiva is sitting there, and all of the, there's a whole, I forget, it's the Shiva, I forget what it's called, whole book of mythology, and it's Parvati, Shakti at the foot of her guru, Shiva. She's treating him like the guru, and she's asking him about herself. And and then he will tell her about her, who she is, and how the universe works, because that's what she is. But he came from her. Do you see the interaction here? That's when you're in the state of, on the one hand, you are completely vulnerable. You are totally surrendered to the universe. You're surrendered to the mother. When you're at that place of total surrender to the mother, she makes you the king. And so you're in this state of simultaneously being surrendered to the life force matrix of the universe, and at the same time you are in control of it. But you can't be in control of it if you're not surrendered to it. But if you surrender to it, you get control of it. This is where we want to live. And when you can get to that place, then you can control the matrix. And this is when you have all of your desires fulfilled, literally beyond your wildest dreams. And this is what gives you the ability to be in whatever humble circumstances you live in and realize you have everything. And this is why the saints, being like the spiritual masters, can live in the middle of the wilderness with nothing but a loincloth and have everything and need nothing. It's not because they're constantly in their mind traveling to other realms of existence and escaping it. You're missing the point if that's what you think's what's happening. They're completely in this world. In fact, the whole tantric path, which is the path of satisfying all of your physical desires, came from these guys who lived in the middle of the woods, who were celibate for, decades. That's the path of Tantra. This is the path of the feminine, the path of the left hand. which says that the way to overcome the illusion of the self is to gratify the self. But when you do that, you run the risk of getting trapped. And then the universe says, okay, you're trapped for a little while. You get to play that out. But the universe also says, but you know what? If you were going to get trapped, you were going to get trapped anyway, because that's the lesson that you wanted to learn. That's why there's no judgment. That's why Shiva, in the myths, his retinue are thieves and prostitutes and, you know, all of that stuff, drug users, because he says, I'm not going to stop you from doing what you want to do. Yeah, it's ultimately, it's you know, it's not going to get you what you want, but you'll figure that out. You're smart enough to figure that out, but I think you should give yourself what you want. And then at the end, you find out, when you get through all that, you find out that you can have everything you want without indulging in the false part of it. So again, I say sin exists, but it's, and am I saying this right, an acronym? Self-imposed negativity. So even if your self-imposed negativity is drug addiction or, you know, stealing, you know, you're trying to indulge yourself in something that can't give you what you want, and you're doing it out of fear because you don't believe that your mother loves you. You don't believe that your mother wants to give to you. And so you end up hurting yourself. That's the only reason that it's a sin, is because you harm yourself because you don't trust, and that's okay. You'll learn eventually. Okay, so that was kind of a long rant. Let's see what else. Any other questions we got here? All right, so once again, I'm going to do a little bit of do some ads while I think a little bit and look at some questions. Okay, so I got some great questions here which I'm going to respond to. Let's see here. How did you journey to the underworld? I simply asked. I was worshiping Mother Hela, and I asked to have a vision of her in my dreams, and she granted my request. So there's not one way to do it. Again, you're trying to look for that one thing you can control her. You can't control you can't control her without her permission. So if you want an experience with Mother Hela, ask. Be careful what you ask for. Mother Hela is, you know, as much as I'm filled with my eyes fill with tears when I talk about her, it was still a frightening experience on a lot of levels. So just be prepared for that. But you know, it's beyond words. Anyway. Optimistic, pessimistic realist says, I have a question. I heard your topic on entities and demons. However, what are your thoughts on etheric parasites attaching to us and harvesting our energy? How do we prevent detachment? Same thing. It's all the same. It falls in the same category of demons. If that's happening, it means that you've sent out a request. It means that you yourself already feel as though you have been attacked emotionally and energetically, and you may not be conscious of it, and if that's happening to you, it means you've sent that out to the universe. It also means that you need to heal on a level of identity, and so there's some things within your unconscious you need to heal, and you will have to go through some painful healing processes. And so that means that at the very least a part of you is afraid of that and is seeking to be distracted. And so again, we're already creating everything in our environment. So created a situation where, whether they're people or not, or etheric parasites or not, it doesn't matter. You've attracted it because that's how you already feel about yourself. Now, I'm not judging you if you already feel that way. No, again, that's your false projection based on probably something that happened in childhood or in past lives. And it starts with making the choice, the very frightening choice of choosing to trust the mother. You start with saying, Mother, maybe you don't even know who she is, and you say, Mother, I trust you. Heal me. Feed me. Nourish me. She will come to you and she will encourage you to look at some painful issues. And if you choose not to look at your painful issues, I've seen this over and over again, then what happens is people recreate the same issue because they haven't learned it. So if somebody has created a scenario where etheric parasites, they have to be attacked by non-physical entities pulling their energy out, it means that there's something in them that's saying, I was not, my energy was taken from me. And you have to have that experience in order to become shocked into it. And you can get trapped in that projection, or you can use that to go, well, if I feel that way, I want to deal with it. Again, this is why you need a teacher, because a teacher will reflect back that to you. Can't do it on your own. That's my experience. We need each other. Jack Bell says, I know the most important thing is to live out of fearlessness, but does also living a vegetarian lifestyle higher your vibration? Maybe for you. I need huge amounts of protein. If I don't eat a ton of protein, I'm a very unhealthy, unhappy guy. Now, I could still do that vegetarian. In fact, the majority of the protein that I intake is pea protein, that comes from peas. Powdered protein, that's the majority of it, but I also get it from flesh. But, if you want to be a vegetarian, do it. If that's the way you're going to live a fearless lifestyle, do it. But I don't buy into that that's how everybody has to live. I can understand, though, why a lot of people do, because animals have lives and the karma connected to that. I get it. But is it my belief that people have to do that? No. In fact, I think for some people, that's probably a bad thing. In fact, I do know people who were vegetarian and vegans, and they ended up becoming anemic. And they became pescatarians because they had to have some kind of animal protein. There's, I can't remember what it is, but there's some enzyme that you can only get through some kind of animal flesh. So take that for what it is, accept it, agree with it or not. I respect your position, whatever it is. That's my answer. Positivity is the best way to prevent negativity. Choice. Absolutely. Except when we're in denial. So there's a lot of people out there who are constantly in a positive frame of mind, but what's really happening is they're in denial of their pain. So you will never hear me say to people that they shouldn't have a certain feeling. In fact, there's something I don't do well with is when people attack my integrity. It's still something I'm learning to do, but I have gotten very angry when people attack my integrity. But you can look me in the face and say, I feel such hatred for you right now. As long as you own it, I can listen to it. And not only that, I'll hug you. I'll hold your hand and I'll say, tell me, why do you feel that way? And I'll listen. Maybe because there's something in it I'll learn about myself, but more importantly, because I want you to feel your feelings. So I'm never going to be one of those people that talks people out of their feelings. I can't stand that. So I agree with you. And I don't know where you're coming from, but I know some people can misunderstand that and think that you have to be happy all the time. I don't think that's what you were saying, but you understand where I'm going with this. Sortik says, what would you recommend to people who are doing things that they really aren't enjoying anymore? Stop doing them. The way to do that is to find out what it is you really want to do. So here's an easy way. Again, this is something that you need a teacher for. I would want to talk to you, and have a session with you and find out what's going on. so that I can really get to the, reflect back to you what I think is really going on. But the easy way to do it is to ask yourself, in my fantasy world where I don't have to make money and I don't have to work for a living and I don't have to meet other people's expectations, or I don't have to follow any laws, I don't have to do anything. If in a fantasy world where the only thing I'm required to do is to do the things that give me the most joy and that are the most exciting and fun and that I'm passionate about, what would you do? Even if it's totally unrealistic, even if it's I would grow wings and, jump off of mountaintops and fly to the moon. I don't care how unrealistic it is. What is it that you would do? Whatever it is that you come up with, that's what you're supposed to do. That's your soul desire. So you don't have to worry about, how do I stop doing things I don't like? The way that you stop doing things you don't like is start doing the things you really do like. But the tough part of that is that we have to then bump up against what society wants us to do, what we think society wants us to do, what our parents want us to do, what our teachers, our whatever it is. And then we have all the stuff in our own head from past lives about what we think we're supposed to do to be good people. We got to battle with all that, and again, that's why we need teachers to help us through that. JQ says we're all plugged to the energy extraction matrix right now. Okay, so this is where it comes to, if you want to interact best with me, the best way to do it is not to state your opinion, but to ask me a question, because I think what you just said is nonsense. I don't believe that for a second. We're not plugged into an energy extraction matrix unless that's what you believe. If you believe that, then that means that you don't believe in your own divinity, and you are projecting that matrix. You are projecting that matrix into your own reality. That's why you're experiencing it. And if you want to exit that matrix, you've got to let go of that. It means that there's some part of you that wants to be a victim. And I know that you don't want to hear that, and I know that's probably going to piss you off, and you're going to want to argue with me about it. But I've experienced it. I know it to be true. A lot of people who were born in the internet age have this experience. It's because you are plugged in. Throw your computer away for a month and live on a mountaintop. I swear to you. You will find out very quickly that what you think is because you've created it. You're not connected to real reality because you're stuck in some kind of a computer, because you live connected to your computer all the time. Sounds like I'm judging you. Maybe that's not true about you. I'm saying, meaning, the general you. But that's one of the main things I've seen with people starting in the 90s, young kids starting in the 90s up till now. They've never lived without constant connection to internet devices and electronic devices. They don't know how to function without it. So you really are trapped in the matrix. But it is your projection. You can let go of it whenever you want. The feminine is Lucy. I am assuming that's a joke. I don't get it, but I'm sure it's funny. Controlling the matrix, you're talking of blood then. That's why so many sacrifices. Again, I think you're new to my channel. So my suggestion is to watch a lot of my videos before, because you would know that that's not where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to argue with you. I see things differently than that. If you want to know how to get out of that and have more control than that, watch more of my videos or work with me personally. Mr. Velveeta, the spiritual currencies are intent, attention, and spending time. Sounds great. I have no problem with any of that. Sortique, I'm sure you've seen her around, but what do you think of quartz crystal? I don't know. Is that a person? I don't know her, so I can't comment on that. Joel Jackson, my dreams, there's this compulsion to go into scary deep places. I haven't gone in. It's just too scary. Lots of bugs. I need courage to go in there. All right, well, go for it, brother. Somebody says, yes, I was just thinking about quartz. She says for no orgasm at all. Hey, man, whatever works for you. My experience is, especially if you do like celestial qigong, you don't ever have to worry about losing your energy. Celestial qigong, people are saying, what is celestial qigong? That's this. Go to Amazon.com, plug in Celestial Qigong, get your own version. I think there's a streaming version. But I'm telling you, you do that, you won't ever have to worry about anybody stealing your energy ever again. You may have to worry about how to deal with reality, the true reality, but you'll never have to worry about losing your energy again. A says, self-work is key, and then the experience from health energy flows. At least that's what I got from his take on the subject. I don't really see how a male would release more energy than a woman, though. I never said that. I never said that a male releases more energy than a woman. No, quite the opposite. Here's the thing about, I'm trying to use the right word because I don't want to get dinged by YouTube for saying something wrong. Here's the thing about lovemaking. A man surrenders to the woman. His surrender to her is what stimulates her. Guys, if you want a woman to fall for you, surrender to her power. This is why guys get on one knee. You know, a healthy woman wants to see her man bow to her. And when he bows to her, then she gives herself to him and makes him the king. She will make you the king. You try and impose it on her, you'll never get it. But what happens is that a man will submit himself to her because she's more powerful than he is. She will surround him with her energy. She will surround him with her aura. When I'm out in public with my girlfriend, she naturally does this. I don't even have to, it's why I picked her. Because she does this naturally. She doesn't, consciously, she would probably not know a lot of what I'm talking about or find it interesting. She really builds my ego up and all that, but truth of the matter is that she's the one that has all the power. When I'm out in public with her, people treat me so differently. In fact, when I'm out in public with her, I've had, 25-year-old supermodels hit on me. And it doesn't happen as much when I'm by myself. But when I'm with her, it happens. Because of her power. Now, she's also not jealous. She doesn't have an ounce of jealousy in her. She, in fact, likes it when other women find me attractive. That makes her feel good about herself. Like, ooh, look at the guy she has. Ladies, jealousy will destroy this. So this is another lesson. Read about the goddess Indrani if you want to learn how to empower a man that way. And here's the flip side. Once a woman has no jealousy, a man will not want to be with any other woman. If you're jealous, you'll drive him away. If you have no jealousy, he won't want anybody else. You see that, you surrender to the feminine, she makes you the king. If you have no jealousy about your man, he won't want anybody else. This is how the universe works. Continuous give and take. All right, so looks like there aren't any questions. So this is your last chance to ask a question. I'll see if I can find something to rant about for the next couple of minutes while people are looking for something to ask. The book, do I have a picture of it here? Yes. The book that will help with creating the base assumptions surrounding this is The Shamanic Secret Command to a Perfect Life, the missing ingredient to the secret. And here it is, right here. If I had one book to recommend, that would be it. Because if you can understand that and put it into practice, then you can be happy and enjoy your life. Really enjoy your life. And there really isn't anything beyond that. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions here. Seriously, totally surrender? That's not what the pickup gurus say, the ones that constantly malign my email. Yeah, well, anybody who knows anything about those pickup gurus, yeah, they get a lot of women. They get You know, they get a lot of action, but look at the women they get. Here's what happens if you end up getting a woman like that that wants to be, that has a misunderstanding about wanting to empower a male, because at the root of it, that's what's going on. I mean, who knows what happened? Maybe they have daddy issues, or who knows whatever else. But there's a misunderstanding of, there's a part of them that wants to see the masculine as the highest guru. And so they're misunderstanding that. But if you get a woman that has that misunderstanding and then you fall in love with her, she'll dump you in a second. She'll drop you in a heartbeat. Because she doesn't want that. She doesn't want the true connection. Same thing with a guy. You know, a guy who's running after a woman who doesn't really want to empower him. You know, you can complain about, oh, men want this and want that and the other thing. But, you know, a man who, see, here's the thing. In order to surrender to a woman, you have to be in a place where you don't need her. But if you need a woman, you're not going to surrender her. You're going to want to be a vampire. Same thing with women. If she needs a man, she's going to be a vampire. Right? And this is why the problem with sex is a problem. When you have two people who are coming from their needs, one of them is going to have a stronger need than the other, and that means somebody's going to end up getting their energy pulled out of them. But when you have two people who are empowered enough within themselves that they don't need somebody else, but they want somebody else, and they get into that place where they can meet and have that interchange of energy, then they both get empowered. And anyway, that's a longer subject, but let's see, what else here? Carlos Castaneda, you ever read him in the stories of Don Juan the Shaman? Yes, I have. And I've already talked about him. I'll mention it very briefly again. I read him for years. I had all of his books, underlined everything. In fact, I did a lot of his practices, and it worked. Brilliant writer. And if you want to learn how to be a disciplined warrior, read Castaneda, especially the first few books. The last one, he loses it in the last couple of books. He misses it big time. But he was a fraud. 100% total fraud. He was a very destructive individual. He did not practice what he wrote. And, you know, this is the sad part. This is what I hope I can do. I try and be honest with all of you people about everything that I am. I try not to hide any of my faults or what I'm learning. I make mistakes. I trip over myself. I do it all in front of you because I'm just a human being. People, my teachers, not only my physical teachers, but my ethereal teachers have told me that I am required to present myself as a master. That's what they've told me to do. So I don't want to disobey that. But I want you to know I'm just as human as you are. Trust me. I am just as human as you are. But I want to do, you know, when I look at Castaneda, and I could name a few others who were brilliant, but they were cult leaders, and on a personal level, Castaneda was very destructive. He was a predator, and he was a liar and a thief, and he destroyed native cultures with, his misrepresentation of their understanding. He stole it all from Vedic and Taoist sources, and he gave it, made it up so that he could, anyway, all kinds of stuff. But he was brilliant. And had he listened to what was going on within him and been honest, as I'm trying to be, and say, here's where I've been inspired. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I think is going on. I think the universe is telling me to take this and take this and take this and bring it together, and the fusion of the parts makes it greater than the whole. This is the evolution of what all these guys have been spending thousands of years learning, and this is where it's going. And even I know that a lot of stuff that I create, I give to you. You guys, I see you guys take off with it and go places with it that I haven't reached. You're passing me by. And that makes me feel good, because that tells me that this isn't about me. This isn't like, a bodybuilder, it says, yeah, well, I lift a bunch of weights and the only, and this is my muscle. It's not that. It's like I'm still figuring this out, and I'm learning from you guys, because you take what I give you. Because I couldn't possibly practice every single technique that I have given out. I mean, I've dabbled in some, I practice others, but I can't master all of them. There's just no way. There's too much stuff. So I want you guys to branch out. Some of you are going to be more into mantra. Some of you are going to be more into energy work. Some of you are going to be into runes. Some of you are going to be into whatever it is. You're going to go and take this seed that I'm trying to present to you, and you're going to go and you're going to master it. And I am hoping, and it is my belief, and it's my feeling, my intuition, that this path, this thunder path that I'm creating, or synthesizing, or channeling, whatever you want to say, it's just in its infancy. And over the generations, long after this physical person, I'm no longer in this meat bag, Michael William Denney. Maybe I'll come back in a future generation and learn from one of you guys. And you'll teach me something about this path that I now take credit for. This is what a true tradition is. This is why when you work with a teacher who has a connection to a tradition, is that you're connected to all of the ancestors going back thousands and thousands and hundreds and millions of years and other dimensions. That's why it's so important. That's why those of you who work with me, you think, well, I can afford one time, but then you keep saying, oh, I need to work with you 2 times a week or 4 times a week. Trust me, if you worked with me 4 times a week, the universe would give you the money to afford it. That's my belief. So, don't wait around. I'm not trying to tell you to go get yourself into financial trouble. You get what I'm saying. That's what this path is. That's my belief. So point is that if Castaneda had understood the power that was being revealed to him, and if he had chosen to be truthful and honest about it, can you imagine what he would have been able to experience and create? I want that. I look at him. I learn as much from people's mistakes as their successes, and I look at that mistake and I say to myself, I'm not going to do that. I want to get what he didn't get, what he could have gotten. So that's why I make like the video of like I did the gazing video, right? And I played it to the hilt, and then I told you what I did. There's something in between there. There's a middle point in between where I'm pretending that, yes, I'm the big healer and I'm the teacher. And then there's the part where I go, listen, I take the mask off. I'm just a human being. There's some place in the middle where I can be truthful and honest with you. And I don't know if I found it yet. Where I can be truthful and honest with you and still not destroy the illusion. And in that space is where all the power is. And I want to get there. So if you stick with me, and if I keep doing my job, maybe that's where we'll go. All right. Great question. Let's see. Anything else here? Right now I'm beyond needing a woman, so I'm not worried about that. I don't believe you. If you're talking like that, it means that you do need a woman. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you're afraid of being hurt. I don't believe that you're beyond needing a woman. You know how I know that? Because if you were to say, yeah, a woman would be nice, I would like that. I'm not ready for one right now, but someday, if you talk like that, then I'd know that you were beyond needing a woman. That's how I know. I could be wrong. So other people are kind of agreeing with me here. What about ayahuasca? We talked a lot about that. Ayahuasca, the same thing about that. Go back and watch from the beginning when I've talked about that. It's a tool. I don't think it should be used on, I can't say. I've never done it, so I can't say. I do know a lot of people have been damaged by it. I think it should be done properly. I think it should be done by a true master. I don't think it should be done by these farms where people farm, and they get a bunch of people coming down from Western countries, and you run the risk of people getting, trapped in the whole greed thing, and they create this farm and just farm it out to people. I think it should be done in its traditional way. And then when it's done properly, I think, I should stop there because I don't know enough about it. But I think it should be done properly. I'll just say that. It has its place. I think it should be done properly. The Norse and the Celtics say the most to me. Jung said something about that, but I've studied other belief systems and some of them just resonate. I understand. Do I recommend ayahuasca's use? I haven't used it, so I'm not capable of recommending it or not recommending it. My opinion is kind of worthless at this point. Rafael Castaneda was onto something. Just beware. Laugh out loud. I want to try ayahuasca. I'm not sure why, but it's calling me. I would seek out a master. I would seek that out. Really find somebody. Don't do it at all costs, just for the sake of doing it. Find somebody who's an actual master and ask them about it. I say that if you're going after anything out of need, because you're unhappy and you need something to get you out of your pain, I think that's a bad idea. So that's my worry about that. Really check yourself to see why you're doing it. I know that in traditional circles, whether it's ayahuasca or peyote or anything else, many times the shaman will look at you and say, no, you're not ready. So if you go to somebody who's going to give it to you just because you paid the money and they're going to give it to you regardless, that's the wrong place to be. You got to be willing to find a teacher who's going to say, no, you're not ready. So with that, check out a master who will be that clear. No, Don Juan did not exist. Castaneda was a fraud. He made up Don Juan. I don't know what he was, but I think he was a bunch of other people. No, he didn't really exist. But he exists on the ethereal plane the same way that Jesus exists on the ethereal plane. If you want to talk to Don Juan, I'm sure that you can have an experience with that. Some of Castaneda's stuff works. I said that. I said that he was brilliant and that it does work, and that if you believe it, it'll work. Shamans I know of might laugh at you a lot. I don't know what you're saying. If you're saying because I am telling you that Castaneda was a fraud, you're telling me they're going to laugh at me? That's fine. The deal is that what I'm saying to you, listen to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is that Castaneda was channeling true, groundbreaking shamanic information. He himself did not practice it. He was a fraud. So that is going to limit his teaching. If you take his teachings, especially his earlier teachings, and practice them, you can have tremendous success. The point I'm trying to make is that shamans need to be real. They need to be real. Okay, so I don't know. All right, so you're saying something else here. Anyway. Yeah, see, this is my thing. When I feel like somebody's attacking my integrity, I get defensive. So here you are looking at a real person. I'm not hiding anything from you. So if you caught me in my in my ego, then my apologies to you. It happens all the time. I misinterpret people. I have done that more than a few times. That is something I'm continuing to work on. All right, so are there any more questions? I will see if there's any more questions that I think I can add something to. Yes, I did just laugh. I laughed at me. I was laughing at me, but you helped me with that. Any more questions that I can answer? I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to see if there's something. Let me see. While I think to myself, is there anything else I want to say? Last thing I want to say, I felt a lot of the mother coming through me in this. When I started to want to talk about this was, before I come on, I ask and I kind of search and I say, what's the theme here? And the theme here is, here's the question you want to ask yourself. If you want to exit the matrix, the question you want to ask yourself is, do you want to be loved? Because if you want to be loved, then you can escape your false negative ego matrix that you've projected for yourself. If you want that, that's the question to ask. Do you want to be loved? Now, I just asked that question, and there was a back and forth between me and the mother here for a second. And what I got from it was that she's never going to force freedom onto you. She loves you that much. And you have to ask for her to love you. You have to ask for it. Not because you have to beg and plead, but because it's a two-way experience. She's not going to force it on you. If you ask her, she will give you that. But she will also give with you the cleansing that comes with it. So within the question is, you're asking for her to come in and clean your boo-boo. Like when your mom would squeeze Bactine on you, ow, 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 ow. Right? So unlike our physical mothers who just say, just hold still, hold still. The universe does that to us sometimes. Hold still, and they put the Bactine on us or whatever it is that stings, or pick the whatever it is, pop the blackhead or whatever it is that they do that's painful. Your spiritual mother doesn't do that. Your spiritual mother wants, I'm getting flooded with emotion here. She wants desperately to heal your wounds. But she's not going to force it on you because she respects you in this three-dimensional life that you've chosen to live. She wants you to walk that path and to learn the lessons. And she knows, if you can't remember, she knows that this is your path you've chosen to walk. And the mistakes that you make are yours to choose to make. And she will never get in the way of that. As heartbreaking as it is to watch you hurt yourself, she will never interfere. But if you ask, and the way to ask is, Mama, will you love me? When you ask, she will come and she will put the Bactine and whatever else. And you have to kind of understand it's going to be challenging and it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. Depending on how far down the wrong, mistaken path of ego you've gone, it's going to hurt. But it's a healing pain. It's a healing pain. And if you are able to do that, then you can get to that place where you can live in that bliss. Live in the bliss of the mother. Again, this picture here just says it all. Even the Trinity, they've surrendered to her and they live in the hands and the bosom of the mother. And that represents us. The Trinity represents the human being. Shiva is the highest awareness. Brahma is the subconscious and the unconscious mind, the creator that projects our reality. And Vishnu, which is the soul. Vishnu is the same root where we get Ve, Odin, Vili, and Ve. Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu, Odin, Vili, and Ve. The ecstasy of awareness, willpower, sacred space. Literally that pushes away. The reason why Vishnu is the protector of the universe is because he pushes away the limitations so that you can live here in the middle, which is your heart center. It's where you live. Okay, so a lot of emotion coming through me. So it's hard for a big tough guy like me to have those kinds of emotions, but it's good for me. Yes, so I recommend Jor-El Jackson. Ask Hela to help you, and in whatever way she chooses to, she will. And for all of us, if we want to experience true freedom, we can start by asking Mama to love us. Mama, will you love me? Will you please love me? I want your love. And surrender to that love, and let her come down and pick you up and dust you off and clean you up. All right, Diogo asked me something about UFOs. I don't know. Short answer is I don't know. I can't answer that question because I don't know. So I'm going to stop there because I think that that's the main point that I want to bring out, which is that the universe is alive. So what you would call the matrix is a false idea, and it's empty because it comes from your own negativity when you project onto the true matrix, and she lets you do it. She'll let you project whatever you want. Amazing. She'll let you project whatever negativity you want onto her, and she'll let you have that experience for as long as you need it. But when you're ready to experience the real matrix, which is the love that is woven by the goddess, woven by the mother, you won't ever be thinking about leaving. You won't ever want to leave. There is nothing like the true love of a mother. There's nothing in the world like it. Nothing in the world like it. That's why all men are little boys. We're always looking for our mother. It's a lot for you women to have to live up to, but that's what we're looking for. Anyways, Jor-El, thank you for yep, we've got a lot to learn from each other. Okay, so that's it for me for this time. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity, and thank you to the mother, the matrix. Thank you, Mama, for allowing me to channel your love to your children and to me, and to allow me to be a part of that. So that's it for tonight. A little bit of business before we go again. If you need any connection, I'm going to put it up here at the end, all the ways that you can connect to me if you want to support the channel. Obviously, having a session with me is going to do it. Buying the books and the videos, of course. Watching the YouTube videos. Go in and watch all of my videos. Go in and watch them so you have a better idea of everything that I teach and what I'm saying. Buy the books and read them. But the most direct way that you can support me in this work is to subscribe on Patreon. A monthly subscription that keeps things coming in so I can do more of these. I want to do this all the time. By the way, coming up soon, I'll talk about it soon, I'm going to be speaking on radio podcast. I'll put information up soon, so watch out for that. That's going to be July 6th, I believe, coming up pretty quick. So I'll give information on that soon. So there's more coming. I am stepping out. I'm taking a risk. I'm putting myself out there, and I'm gonna keep doing it. And I appreciate what you guys have done. More and more people are telling me how much this work is affecting you, and that means a lot to me. And it makes me feel like, you know, I'm valuable, and that what I'm doing is valuable, and you know, it's everything that, you know, it's getting to people, and you're getting it. So thank you. Anyway, so that's it for now. I gotta shake off all this emotion and go cry a little bit and put on my tough guy armor again so that I don't feel so scared. So that's it for now, guys. Until next time, may the power of the mother be with you, and just ask for her help and surrender to her, and she will give you everything. Until next time, my friends, thank you.